Hi everyone, today I'm doing my February 2016 book wrap-up, so let's get right to it. The first book that I've read was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and it's the first book in the Throne of Glass series. Now I've heard a lot about Throne of Glass series through BookTube, and I had really high expectations going in. I thought this was a pretty good book and I gave it 4 stars, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the main character, Liane, so I had kind of mixed feelings about her and I didn't really enjoy her that much. But with that being said, I thought the story was really interesting and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more about her. The next book that I've read was Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari, and I'm a pretty big fan of his. I watched his show on Netflix and I think that he's overall a pretty funny guy. The book that I actually listened to was narrated by him, and it was even more entertaining. So I think that if you're looking to read this book and you are a fan of his, I would suggest the audiobook since he narrates it. Basically, this book is about modern day dating and relationships and the way in which people tend to meet people these days, and how there are some benefits and some downfalls to the ways that people choose to do it. I thought it was very informative. There were lots of statistics and lots of research put into it, so it's not just a novel. There's a lot of stats that go into it as well, so I thought that was a really interesting aspect of the book, and I didn't really expect that before I picked it up, so I was pleasantly surprised and it turned out to be a very interesting book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, so you know it was a really good book. So I recommend it for you if you are into those sorts of things. The next book that I read was The Hunger Games, which was about time because I feel like everyone else has read it already, but finally I'm getting to it. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was very interesting. I liked it much better than the movie, and I thought the characters were a lot more interesting in the book than they were in the movie. I liked that there wasn't too much romance. It was just the right amount, and it was pretty fast-paced, and I was interested every step of the way. I always wanted to know what happened next, so I was very engaged in this book. And I can't wait to read the next 2 books. I think they're going to be interesting as well, so I'm all about the Hunger Games books now. The next book that I've read was 50 Shades of Grey, and I gave it 2 stars. I also have a discussion video and I'll link that down below, but I didn't really enjoy that book very much. I thought the relationship was very questionable, the characters were very flat, the dialogue was very poor, and overall there was just a lot of unnecessary sex scenes, but like I mentioned, that's just the kind of book that it is, so I didn't have very high expectations, and it turned out to be pretty well what I expected that it would be, so I don't think that I'm going to read the other 2 books, even though some people say that they're better than the first one. I don't think I'm that interested to know what happens next, so I'm going to pass on that one. The next book that I've read was Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, and I enjoyed this book. I thought it was a great collection of short stories, which was definitely a great base to the Throne of Glass series. I was able to learn more about the main character, and I actually ended up liking her a lot more after reading Assassin's Blade, just because I was able to learn about her past, what went wrong, how come she ended up in prison, and all of that sort of thing. So it was definitely a great touch, and I wish I had read that book before I started the first Throne of Glass book, but that's okay. I ended up giving Assassin's Blade 4 stars. The next book that I read was Pride and Prejudice, and I know I mentioned before that I've only seen the movie and I haven't read the book, but finally all of that changed, and I have to say that I enjoyed the book better than I liked the movie. I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was so lovely, it was beautifully written, the characters were amazing, there was so much depth to them all, you can't help but care for them, and just the story is wonderful. So if you like classic books, or if you haven't read any of Jane Austen, this was my first Jane Austen novel, I highly recommend. This is just a lovely, lovely book, and it was different from the movie, so it was definitely something interesting for me to read, so I definitely enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Opposite of Loneliness, and it's a collection of short stories published by Marina Keegan, who was a Yale graduate who died just a few days after her graduation. I really enjoyed her book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought the stories were just so relatable. It was just something that I've experienced, and I'm sure lots of other people have experienced this. People in their 20s just going out into the world, trying to figure out their life, have trouble with all sorts of things that they have to deal with, and it was just really refreshing. The book consists of nonfiction and fiction, and they're all just beautiful stories. I really liked it. They were just so different, and I was just blown away by how unique they all were, and they just touched on different topics. It was just, I just really enjoyed this book. So if you like short stories, I definitely recommend this book. It's pretty great. The last book that I read was What Alice Forgot, and I give this book 3 stars. I've read other books by Liane Moriarty, and I enjoyed them much more than this one. Like The Husband's Secret, I gave it more stars, I believe. But this book was interesting because it's about a woman who loses her memory and thinks that it's the year 1998 instead of 2008. And then she's shocked to find out that she has 3 kids and her husband are getting a divorce. I thought the idea of the book was interesting, but the ending was just kind of boring and predictable, so I was kind of disappointed in that sense. I feel like she's had better books than this, so I had higher expectations. But with that being said, it was still an enjoyable read, and if you like those sorts of books, then I definitely recommend it. I just wish there was a little more to it than there was. So that's just what I thought of this one. So that's it for my books that I've read in February of 2016. Please let me know if you read any of these books that I've talked about, and also let me know if you've read in February. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.